Welcome to While We Were Distracted, the podcast where we explore topics that often get overshadowed in the rush of daily life. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.
Welcome back for another deep dive. We're going deep into a story that is truly bizarre.
Yeah, this one's
We're talking about alleged crimes by government agencies.
that's a doozy.
It is. And what's particularly interesting is a lot of these things we're going to be talking about have never seen the inside of a courtroom.
Right.
So we're left with a lot of questions about legal accountability, or the lack thereof when you're talking about government entities being involved. But to set the scene a little bit, imagine a Florida tax collector with a fondness for sugar babies,
Okay.
a $25 million extortion plot,
Mm-hmm.
and a mysterious link to the Israeli consulate.
Wow. Sounds like a Hollywood thriller.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that's what makes this deep dive so fascinating. We're not just exploring a salacious story. We're potentially uncovering a system where power and influence might trump legal repercussions. So let's start with this Florida tax collector, Joel Greenberg. Yeah. Now, Greenberg's story kind of reads like a classic tale of privilege and entitlement gone wrong. He comes from a wealthy family, son of a prominent dentist, and he sort of glides through life assuming money can solve any problem. But things take a dark turn when he's accused of running a cryptocurrency scam while in office. And when faced with a challenge in the Republican primary, Greenberg's response is anything but measured. Instead of focusing on his campaign, he launches this vicious smear campaign against his opponent, Brian Butte.
Oh, wow.
And we're not talking about your typical political mudslinging here. Greenberg allegedly creates fake Facebook profiles to spread rumors about Butte, accuses him of sexual assault, and even sends letters to Butte's school claiming he's a predator.
Oh my gosh, that's way over the line.
Yeah. Talk about crossing the line.
Yeah.
So Greenberg is arrested for stalking. And when the police seize his phone, well, let's just say it becomes a treasure trove of evidence pointing to potential criminal activity.
Really?
It's like they opened a Pandora's box of illegal activities. We're talking embezzlement, drug use, prostitution, identity theft, wire fraud.
Wow.
You name it, it's on there. And the worst part, evidence emerges suggesting Greenberg was communicating with an underage girl, leading to charges of sex trafficking.
So he was really taking advantage of his position of power, it sounds like.
Exactly. As tax collector, he had access to driver's licenses and state IDs, which he allegedly used to create fake IDs for his underage lovers. This adds another layer of abuse of power to an already disturbing situation. So here we have Greenberg facing a mountain of charges and the very real possibility of spending a significant portion of his life behind bars. What does he do? He tries to cut a deal. And that's where Matt Gaetz, a Florida congressman and friend of Greenberg, enters the picture. Greenberg's lawyers contact the Department of Justice, claiming to have information about Gaetz that could land him in serious trouble, specifically allegations of sexual misconduct with a minor.
Oh, wow.
And the DOJ naturally opens an investigation into Gaetz. But instead of this remaining confidential, it gets leaked to the New York Times, leading to a jaw-dropping interview Gaetz gives on Tucker Carlson's show, where he spins a tale that sounds even wilder than the allegations against him.
Okay.
Gaetz claims that the DOJ is attempting to extort him and his father for a whopping $25 million to make the allegations disappear.
Wow.
He even alleges that his father wore a wire for the FBI as part of this alleged scheme. It's a shocking accusation that casts a shadow of suspicion over the DOJ's conduct.
Yeah, I mean, if that's true, that's pretty serious.
Yeah, but just when you think it can't get any crazier, we need to introduce Bob Levinson, a retired FBI agent who vanished in Iran back in 2007 while working for the CIA.
Okay.
Levinson's disappearance is a tragedy in itself, but it becomes intertwined with this web of intrigue in a way that no one could have predicted. His close friend, David McGee, a former DOJ official, becomes a central figure in this connection. McGee was deeply involved in attempts to rescue Levinson, even orchestrating a deal with Russian oligarch Oleg Deripaska
Okay.
for $20 million in exchange for green cards.
Wow.
Interestingly, this deal involved Andrew McCabe, who later played a key role in accusing Donald Trump of colluding with Russia.
Oh, the irony.
Yeah, the irony is almost palpable, isn't it? But the saga continues. Hillary Clinton, then Secretary of State, shuts down the rescue operation, much to the outrage of American Jews who felt Levinson had been abandoned.
Right.
Levinson's family eventually receives a $1.2 billion judgment in a U.S. court, and he is officially declared dead in 2020. But wait.
Was more.
There's more. In a twist worthy of a spy novel, An Air Force intelligence officer named Bob Kent claims to have received proof that Levinson is still alive.
Oh, wow.
He contacts David McGee, and together they allegedly hatch a plan to raise funds for a rescue. And here's where the circles connect. McGee and Kent's plan to raise funds allegedly involves extorting Don Gaetz.
Matt Gaetz' father.
Matt Gaetz' father. For that same $25 million.
Really?
Remember Gaetz' claim about his father wearing a wire for the FBI? Well, that's exactly what allegedly happened during this interaction with McGee and Kent.
Wow.
It's a mind-boggling web of connections.
Mm-hmm.
A third party involved in the alleged extortion scheme ends up facing wire fraud charges. However, both McGee and Kent remain untouched by any legal repercussions related to the alleged extortion attempt.
Mm-hmm.
And to add another layer of mystery, there's this cryptic mention of the Israeli consulate's involvement,
Oh,
revealed through text messages from a consulate staffer to Scott Adams, the creator of the Dilbert comic strip.
what? That's so strange.
The Israeli connection throws another curveball into this already convoluted story, leaving us with more questions than answers. What was their role? Why would they be privy to information about the Matt Gaetz investigation? And why were McGee and Kent seemingly immune from prosecution? We're wading into murky waters here,
Yeah.
trying to piece together a puzzle with half the pieces missing. We have allegations of serious crimes, whispers of potential government misconduct, and a dash of international intrigue.
It's a lot to unpack.
It is. And the lack of legal accountability is what really makes this whole story so disturbing.
Yep.
You have Greenberg, who despite facing a slew of charges, seems to get a relatively light sentence after cooperating with the DOJ. We have McGee and Kent caught on tape in an alleged extortion attempt, yet facing no charges. It begs the question, are there different sets of rules for those connected to powerful institutions?
Yeah, it really seems that way sometimes.
The lack of transparency surrounding these cases only fuels that suspicion. The details of Greenberg's plea deal, the reasoning behind the DOJ's handling of the Gaetz investigation, and the extent of the Israeli consulate's involvement are all shrouded in secrecy. It all creates this sense of unease about whether justice is truly applied equally.
It's incredibly frustrating, right?
It is incredibly frustrating. It feels like there's this whole other layer to this story. But we're only getting a glimpse. It makes you wonder, are these just isolated incidents, or are they symptomatic of a larger issue within these government agencies?
Right.
Is there this pattern of behavior that allows individuals to operate outside the law without facing real consequences?
Yeah, I mean, that's the million-dollar question.
That's the million-dollar question. Are we dealing with a few bad apples? Or is there something more systemic at play?
Right.
This case shines a light on the potential dangers of unchecked power and the absolute necessity of transparency and accountability within our institutions.
Totally agree.
Without those things, public trust erodes. It creates this breeding ground for cynicism and distrust. Makes people question the integrity of the entire system.
Yeah, and then you get all kinds of conspiracy theories, and it just undermines faith in the rule of law.
Precisely. The Matt Gaetz saga, the disappearance of Bob Levinson, and the alleged involvement of government agencies raise serious concerns about the potential for corruption and abuse of power. And this case is just one example. It makes you wonder how many other stories are out there hidden in the shadows where those in power have seemingly escaped accountability.
It's a chilling thought.
It's a chilling thought, but one that demands our attention.
For sure.
This deep dive has been a wild ride filled with twists and turns that are both fascinating and deeply unsettling.
Yeah, it really has. It's a real journey through a labyrinth of power and corruption and the often elusive pursuit of justice.
We've explored cases where justice seems to have been served, and others where questions linger about whether the truth will ever be fully revealed. But through it all, one thing remains clear. It's crucial for us as citizens to remain vigilant, to demand transparency from our institutions, and to hold those in power accountable.
You're absolutely right.
Because when those in power operate without any checks and balances, it erodes the very foundation of a just and equitable society.
Couldn't have said it better myself. We must never become complacent, because it is through our collective awareness and engagement that we can help ensure that justice prevails.
Well, this has certainly been a thought-provoking deep dive.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think we need a moment to process all this information and consider its implications. We'll be right back to unpack what we've learned and explore what it means for the future of government accountability. Don't go anywhere.
We'll be right back. Now, before the break, we were talking about that alleged extortion attempt on Matt Gaetz' father,
Right.
orchestrated by David McGee and Bob Kent. Now, to be fair, they claimed their motive was totally to help Bob Levinson.
Right.
They said that the $25 million wasn't for their own personal gain, but to fund this rescue operation for Levinson.
Well, that's a pretty bold claim,
Yeah.
considering they approached someone with these serious allegations against their son
Right.
and offered to make them vanish for a hefty sum.
Right.
I mean, even if it was intended for a noble cause, it sure walks, talks, and quacks, like extortion.
Yeah, the line between fundraising and extortion can get really blurry, especially when you're dealing with powerful people and this sensitive information.
Yeah, and what's puzzling is why the FBI, despite having Don Gaetz wear a wire and catching the whole thing on tape, chose not to pursue charges against McGee and Kent.
Yeah, it's a great question, right?
It does seem like they got off with a slap on the wrist, while this other individual involved in the scheme ended up taking the fall for wire fraud.
Right.
And then there's the whole Israeli consulate element.
Yeah,
It's like something straight out of a spy thriller.
it really is.
The fact that a staffer at the Israeli consulate was texting Scott Adams,
The Dilbert creator.
the Dilbert creator, about the Matt Gaetz investigation before it became public knowledge,
Right.
is incredibly strange.
Right.
It suggests a level of inside knowledge that is unsettling, to say the least.
Definitely.
And in those text messages, there was mention of a commando team leader waiting for wire transfers to clear, implying that a rescue operation for Levinson was actually in the works.
Oh, wow.
Was it legitimate, or was this all a cover for something else? We're left wondering,
Yeah.
were government agencies aware of this alleged operation?
Right.
And if so, what was their role? I mean, we're wading into murky waters here, trying to
Yeah.
piece together a puzzle with like half the pieces missing.
Yeah.
We have allegations of serious crimes, whispers of potential government misconduct, and a dash of international intrigue. It is a lot. And the lack of legal accountability is what really makes this whole story so disturbing.
Yeah, I agree.
We have Greenberg, who, despite facing a slew of charges, seems to get a relatively light sentence after cooperating with the DOJ.
Right.
We have McGee and Kent, caught on tape in an alleged extortion attempt, yet facing no charges.
Yeah.
It begs the question, are there different sets of rules for those connected to powerful institutions?
Well, the lack of transparency surrounding these cases just fuels that suspicion, right? We're left with limited information about Greenberg's plea deal, the DOJ's rationale for handling the Gaetz investigation the way they did,
Right.
and the extent of the Israeli consulate's involvement. It all feels very opaque,
Yeah.
leaving many unanswered questions.
It's like we're peering through a foggy window trying to make sense of a blurry picture. You get the sense that there's a much bigger story here.
Right. But we're only seeing a small fraction of it, and it makes you question, are these just isolated incidents? Or is this a symptom of a deeper, more systemic problem within these government agencies?
That's the big question, right?
That's the crucial question.
Yeah.
Are we dealing with a few bad actors, or are there fundamental flaws within these institutions
Right.
that allow for potential abuse of power and a lack of accountability?
Yeah.
If it's the latter, that's a deeply concerning prospect. It erodes the foundation of a functioning democracy where the rule of law is supposed to apply equally to everyone, regardless of their position or connections.
This case really underscores how important those checks and balances are within our system.
Right.
I mean, we need a robust and independent judiciary, a free and investigative press, and mechanisms for holding people in power accountable,
Right.
even when they occupy positions within powerful institutions.
And that's where we, as citizens, have a crucial role to play.
Absolutely.
We can't afford to be passive observers.
We need to demand transparency from our government agencies, scrutinize the actions of our elected officials, and support investigative journalism that shines a light on potential corruption and abuse of power.
Apathy is the enemy of accountability, you know?
Right.
It's through our collective engagement, our willingness to ask tough questions and demand answers,
Yes.
that we can help ensure a more just and equitable society.
Well, this deep dive has been a real eye-opener.
Yeah, it has.
It's a stark reminder that power left unchecked can be a very dangerous thing, but it also highlights the resilience of truth and the importance of holding those in power accountable regardless of their position or influence.
Indeed, this story, with all its complexities and unanswered questions, serves as a call to action for all of us.
Right.
We must remain vigilant, demand transparency, and never underestimate the power of our voices to affect change.
Right.
Because in the end, a just society requires the active participation of informed and engaged citizens.
That's a really powerful message to end on. So to our listeners out there, keep asking questions, stay informed, and hold those in power accountable.
Yes.
The pursuit of justice is an ongoing journey, and it requires all of us to play our part.
Absolutely.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Until next time.
Sure.
We're back, and man, oh man, my head is spinning after going through all of this.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got these alleged crimes, potentially questionable conduct by government agencies, and then this question of, are those in power really held accountable when things go wrong?
It's a question that keeps coming up, right?
Yeah,
Throughout this whole story.
it does.
We keep seeing this theme of people connected to powerful institutions seemingly avoiding serious legal repercussions.
Yeah, and he talks about Greenberg, who, despite all those charges he was facing, he gets what some might consider a light sentence after cooperating with the DOJ. You've got McGee and Kent caught on tape in this alleged extortion attempt, but no charges for them.
Right, and it makes you wonder, is there a double standard at play here?
Yeah, like would the average person, if they were accused of extortion or sex trafficking, would they face the same consequences?
Right.
It doesn't seem like it when you're talking about people who are associated with government agencies or have some political influence. It seems like there's a different set of rules.
Well, that perception of a two-tiered justice system is really damaging to public trust.
And then you add the lack of transparency
Yeah.
surrounding these cases, and it just makes it worse.
Exactly.
I mean, we're left with limited information about Greenberg's plea deal,
Right.
the DOJ's reasoning for how they handled the whole Gaetz investigation. What exactly was the Israeli consulate's involvement? It all feels very opaque. It leaves us with a lot of unanswered questions.
It's like we're just seeing the tip of the iceberg, right?
Yeah.
Like we're trying to look through a foggy window. We know there's more to the story. We just can't quite make it out.
It's blurry.
Yeah.
And so it makes you wonder, are these just isolated incidents, or are we looking at a symptom of a much deeper systemic problem within these government agencies?
That's the big question, isn't it?
That's the question. Are we dealing with a few bad actors? Or are there these fundamental flaws within these institutions that allow this potential abuse of power?
Yeah.
And the lack of accountability. And if it's the latter that's a really concerning thing,
It is.
it undermines the whole idea of a functioning democracy where the rule of law is supposed to apply to everyone, regardless of their position or their connections.
This case really highlights how important it is to have those checks and balances.
Yeah.
A robust and independent judiciary, a free and investigative press, real mechanisms to hold those in power accountable.
And that's where we as citizens come in.
Right. We can't just sit back and
I
watch.
can't be passive. We have to demand transparency from these agencies,
Yeah.
scrutinize the actions of the people we elect,
Uh-huh.
and support investigative journalism. Because that's how we shed light on this potential corruption and the abuse of power.
We can't be apathetic.
We can't.
We have to engage, ask those tough questions, and demand answers. That's how we can ensure a more just and equitable society.
Man, this deep dive has really been an eye-opener. It's a stark reminder that power unchecked is a very dangerous thing.
Yeah, it is.
But it also shows how resilient the truth is and how important it is to hold those in power accountable no matter who they are.
This whole story is a call to action for all of us, right?
Yeah.
With all of its complexities and unanswered questions,
Yeah.
we have to stay vigilant. We have to demand transparency and never underestimate the power we have to actually affect change.
And in the end, a just society needs all of us to participate. It needs an informed and an engaged citizenry.
Couldn't agree more. This was a great discussion.
This was fantastic. So to our listeners, stay informed, ask questions, and hold those in power accountable. The pursuit of justice is a marathon, not a sprint. And it's going to take all of us. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive. We'll see you next time.
If you enjoyed this episode of While We Were Distracted, be sure to watch the video that inspired it. Please take a moment to like and subscribe. It really helps.